It's definitely a company that really employees and like making sure that they progress. You may have like heard or seen on LinkedIn, there's the Noogler, the new Googler.
Hello, everybody. My name is Abhishek Anand, and you're watching my YouTube channel. Today, again, we have a very special guest with us today. Her name is Meghan Sorg, and Meghan Sorg is working at Google, which is a dream company for a lot of you. And I'm sure that you can also make this dream come true. Just have to follow some steps, make your story, and work a little hard. But so to get your story a little bit more interesting and to give you a little bit more push and motivate you, and also to give you some tips for how to land your job in a big tech company. Like it could be any other company in Fang. So we have Megan with us today. And so, guys, I will also let you know right now that Megan has a very diverse experience. She has also worked at Tesla. She has also worked at GM Motors. So she has a really good skill set and background. So she will be sharing with us today. But before that, let's begin with the short introduction from Megan's side. Megan, how are you? And how's your day going so far?
Yeah, it's going good. Yeah, thank you so much for having me.
Great. Can you give a quick little introduction? Tell us a little bit more about yourself, about your background, your school, and your skills.
Yeah, of course. So I can kind of start from the beginning. I am originally from Florida, and I ended up going to the University of Florida in industrial systems engineering major. Did that for my bachelor's. I just graduated in May 2022, and in those 4 years I was there, I had four different internships, lasting about 5 semesters. So starting with a mosaic company, a kind of more open mining company. I worked as more of an environmental engineer doing some geographic data analysis. And then I worked at public supermarkets. If anyone out there is from like the South in the USA, it's very large there, the retail grocery store. I worked in the corporate space. And then from after that, I went to General Motors up in Michigan, doing some supply chain manufacturing, and then into Tesla, where I worked more in the supply chain specific side with suppliers, and then ended up graduating in May. And I've been at Google as a program manager for just over a year now. So specifically, I'm in Google Cloud, and I'm working on the forecasting side for the virtual machines that go into our data centers. I do a lot of the first step in the supply chain of the demand planning and supply shaping before it gets passed through to the end of the supply chain.
Amazing. That's really cool. You have been in Google for like almost an year now. So how's your experience been so far in the company? What are your perspective on how's your experience?
Yeah, it's been great. It's definitely a company that really cares about its employees and like making sure that they progress. You may have like heard or seen on LinkedIn, there's the Noogler, the new Googler. And really it's not a company that they just like throw you in and expect you to know everything. It takes you a full year to like really ramp up, like really take on those projects. And everyone has been so helpful in just ramping you up, taking the time with you, like getting you into the meetings just so you can sit in and hear, and then you start leading your own projects, leading your own meetings, leading your own kind of management of teams. So yeah, it's been great so far. Just great company culture. I love the work-life balance it has me in, and I just love the not every day is different. Everything in tech and just to companies around impact what I do in cloud. So how other, just how TikTok is doing, how Uber is doing, how Tesla is doing, like that all impacts my work. Especially now with this
Mhm.
AI ramp, everything impacts cloud in a certain way, even if it's not a specific Google thing that's happening. So yeah, I've been really enjoying it.
I guess it's really very like you feel like really blessed when you're working for a part and you're making a huge impact for all over the world. And it's about the economy, it's about the people. So it's such a big company. It's not just a company, it's not just a business, but it's like it's a community based company, even though it's in working in a private sector. But Google is doing a lot for the people that people don't even realize. Like over the years, like there are competitors for Google, but like if we look into the history, how Google has grown over the last like couple of decades, it's really incredible. And I'm really amazed when I see people working at Google and sharing their experiences like you. The impact you guys are making is it's absolutely like remarkable. So that's really good. And also, by the way, like what kind of benefits do you really enjoy at Google? Like, do you have like some benefits that are your favorite, and like what kind of benefits like Google offers that's maybe nobody else offers?
Okay, so yeah, I guess I can't talk to like what no one else offers, not sure about that, but I've through my internships, I've seen the progression, and I always love to say you don't know what you're missing until you have it. So you might think like your company is great and you have everything, and then you go to another company and you're like, wow, I have something even better. So kind of like I love going into the office. I probably my favorite benefit is I get to bring my dog in. I have a doogler, my corgi. He goes into the office every day with me. Definitely just makes work-life culture a lot better. Everyone stops and says hi. There's a lot of dogs there. I know a lot of other companies don't do that. So I think it's great. We have like get-togethers every single week, like company-wide or office-wide, happy hours. Last week there was like a huge pride party celebrating Pride this month. There's always the Asian Pacific Islanders Awareness Month and just big parties going on and big meetings. So there's always just something going on, something happening, whether it's, free food, free classes you can take. I learned how to shoot on a film camera one day. Just they were offering that out to all Googlers. We got to explore San Francisco and take pictures. So there's a lot of stuff that aren't even work related, but are just out there that I think I really appreciate as a benefit, that it's not about work. I can end work early and we can go to a happy hour together. It's all about the culture of Google, not just your 9 to 5 and then go home. They really want to make sure you enjoy coming to the office, you enjoy your coworkers, and you just enjoy working there.
That's really important. I think like your 8 hours at work is also going to impact the rest 16 hours after that. So it's really important to make your employees like happy and keep them like, always like cheered up, respect their social life, they help them in growing, and as well as making a proper work-life balance. Even though like you're working for like really high tech products, you're innovating every single minute. It's like you have to have your brain in the right place to do that, to give them the free space, the free mindset. I think in that terms, like I think it's really amazing the way that you mentioned about how Google is doing it, and that's great. All right, so Megan, let's begin with your journey to Google. So how did this come up? Like how was the application process for you, and how did you come up to make this dream come true?
Yeah, so I guess kind of I would say start a little more in the beginning of program manager wasn't like, when I went into college as a freshman, I wasn't like, I want to be a program manager, like I didn't know what I want to do. No one knows what they want to do half the time. And initially, like getting into industrial and systems engineering, I thought I wanted to do manufacturing. I wanted to be like in the factories, very hands-on. And just after my General Motors like manufacturing experience, like love General Motors, like great job. I just realized manufacturing's not for me. Like I don't want that hands-on in the factory every day that some people love and do. So then I went more into supply chain, and in those supply chain roles, it is very, very, I guess, communicative. So a lot of meetings with internal stakeholders, so other groups in your company. A lot of times it's external. I was talking directly to suppliers all over the world. And I think I just really like that aspect of talking with a lot of different people, solving problems, like making something happen, like launching a program, getting a new product introduction rolling. Just kind of like getting those achievements like through working with other people. And so with that, I kind of got a lot of those like soft skills, like communication, leadership, teamwork, and then also I worked really hard in the technical space. So I learned multiple different programming languages. I was very heavy into Excel, just data analytics. And I think after that Tesla experience of realizing that I love being in tech, I just love this innovation and everyone is okay to do something better. Like there is something better out there. It's not the traditional mindset of, oh, we've been doing something like this for so long, let's keep doing it that way. It's been working. So Tesla really opened my eyes to just the tech industry in general and how everything's moving, everything's changing all the time and just getting better, that I really started branching into Google. And just kind of like big tech in general. Google really, I guess, applied to me in a sense that I liked how diverse the entire company is. So we have, hardware, you can look from like Android and Pixel, you could work on the docs, sheets, project, that side. And then I really found cloud to be super, super interesting. So I applied, I guess, in January of my final semester in college. So I graduated in May, for a program management / techno program management role, for Google. It wasn't a new grad role. It was just a more of an open role fitting within cloud and a couple of the other product areas. I guess timeline was, the application, pretty standard. And then I heard back, got that phone interview, heard back some more. I got, I think, about 4 interviews after that. And then a final interview with my manager who ended up hiring me and then, landing the job. So the entire timeline was about 6 months. Apply in January, start my role in June, with a lot of like speaking to my recruiter, having a bunch of different interviews, and then finally ending up, like getting that offer and then starting. So that's kind of like, I guess, my timeline of starting college, like not knowing what I wanted to do, like finding out through my experiences, like what I like, what I don't like, and then really finding, just applying and going through all of those interviews to get, as you said, like my dream job, and as many other people would say that their dream job.
How was the interview process? Like you said, like there were like 4 different rounds after your recruiting call. So what was it like? Was it like more technical based? And can you tell a little bit more about the interviews? What kind of interviews were theirs, and like with whom did you have?
Yeah. So first I would say, like, if you're ever interested in Google interviews, they have like a great YouTube channel that can help you like prepare for them. That's run by Google. So it's a big mix of just kind of first, like they want you to see if you fit their culture. We call it being Googly. Just, kind of those, how would you react in this situation? How would you overcome this conflict? How would you address this to a group? More of those, just kind of like your soft skills, I guess you would say. A lot of it is technical. So they want to talk about how you manage data or manage something in a technical way, how you used coding, how you used more of your technical skills in a past experience. And then I would say the third one is how situational based. So they'd give you a situation that you've probably like never been in before. And they'll give you a little bit of details, and then how would you solve this? And there's a lot of like follow-up questions of like, okay, so you did this, one of your stakeholders reacted this way, now what do you do? Okay, this solved this problem, but it also opened up another problem, now what do you do? So it's very situational based of, if something like this arose in your job, how would you overcome it? And just really finding out what your mindset is, like what your critical thinking skills are, and your ability to either overcome a conflict, or just even like how would you like build a launch plan? What would you use? Who would you talk to? So definitely just a lot of like throw in situations. Like you can never prepare for that in a sense. Like you don't know what they're going to say. But just really having those critical thinking skills of knowing the culture of talking to people, but also relying on your technical skills. For the interviewers, it's very spread out. So I can actually become an interviewer to anyone. So I believe I talked to multiple program managers, so people that were in the role that I was going to be on, but in like all different products of Google. I actually don't think I talked to anyone that was within cloud, like in my interviewers. They're all like in different product spaces. But they're all able to like super helpful, just give me some information about Google, kind of what they liked about their job, their company, and then what they do in the day-to-day life.
So basically anybody who is like in a similar like level of the job or the similar management positions can interview for other teams as well at the same time.
I think even like the first call, I could get a SWE that interviewed me. I could get someone more the recruiting side or the finance side. That first call is really more of, would they fit in Google, like yes or no, like based on how they answer some questions, based on their experiences, like would they excel in this company, and would they excel in the role that they're looking for, yes or no? And then it'll start to get harder of really diving into the technical and the situational. And yeah.
So when you talk about technical, so like what kind of technical, okay, like maybe not the direct question, but what kind of technical skills do they judge you on? Like, okay, let's talk about program management, because I know you got an interview for as a program manager, and you are like a successful program manager now. So what are the key skills, especially the technical skills, that you would recommend the students to prepare for and develop them over the time before they get into Google?
Yeah, of course. So I would say like specifically like program management, specifically, I would say databases, coding, definitely. Sometimes you don't know what coding, I guess, software that company would use. So honestly, diversify, R, SQL, VBA, C++, like just have like a little bit of knowledge of everything. I would prioritize little knowledge of everything instead of only great knowledge of one, because it might turn out that your company doesn't use Python and then you only know Python. So something like that. So definitely coding, database knowledge of, if there is 100,000 lines of data, it's not going to fit like on an Excel sheet. It's not going to fit on a Google sheet. Like, how can you integrate that into a database? How can you give everyone access, but also control your access? Because access and security is very, very large, and especially big tech companies. So you need to be like knowledgeable of, I would say the biggest thing is like controlling data and then accessibility of data, protecting that accessibility. And probably the final thing is like, it's technical, but I wouldn't say it's, your coding technical, but just like, how do you present data? Who are your stakeholders? Like in program management, a lot of times it could be internal people, it could be external. Like I present data to my finance team in a different way than I present it to my software engineers, because everyone just works differently. They see different things. Who wants to see the graphs? Who wants to see the pivot tables? Who wants to see dollars? Who wants to see quantitative impact? Really just knowing like how to build databases, control databases, coding in general, which can also go into building databases, and then integrating what you need. And then finally, like what do you do with that data? Like slides, meetings, just sharing, like how do you present that data for everyone to make sense? Because as a program manager, very cross-functional. So again, I work with finance, executives, product managers, other program managers in multiple different sectors. And you really want to know like what do they care about? And I'm going to tailor my data in the way that helps them.
So basically, you have to present your data in such a way that you know who your audience is. So your job is to make them understand the data they want to see, not just the data that you want to show, but you have to get into their minds or the community or the audience based on their job or based on their background, to provide them with the visibility of what's going on, like especially with like the day-to-day tasks, giving them more visibility about the projects, insights, and all. So do you also use any project management tools for program management?
I personally don't really. We use some like Gantt charts to track. It's more of like a, like are we in progress? Are we trending as we would like to? A lot of people use like Google like project and program management tools. I've used flow charts. Those have been great too. I know you can like easily get a subscription for one of those and kind of practice using that and knowing what each piece means. So I would definitely say program management is more about like timelines and flows. That's like the biggest kind of program management tools that we use and have, making sure everything is on schedule, on track, nothing's missing, especially like through the timeline of a project, or we work more cyclically. So sometimes like we just repeat steps all the time, but we want to make sure we don't forget anything, and just make sure we're on track. And if not, then who do we reach out to?
Great, awesome. And so how about like after you got into Google, so how's the life? Like how easily could you transition into a new role, like starting a new position and then getting into like specifically like program management? How was the mentorship support from Google side? How's the culture? Like, is it more like they train you first, or you just you get a project and you start working on it and you learn by working on it? So how's that?
Yes, I would say every team is different, but I do know like Google wide, your first month is dedicated to like a specific type of training. So I was grouped with SWEs, graphic designers, program managers, kind of that technical space, for 4 weeks, where we literally built essentially an app from start to finish. The first like 2 weeks is more about like, like learning about Google, like introducing, like meeting people, like learning about all the values of the company, like what does Google really value, like how to act and such, and just kind of like what the culture is. And then you get into working with a mentor, and then your group. I had about like 10 people in my group, and I was the only program manager in that group. Everyone else was SWEs, front end and back end. And I was kind of the delegator of like, look, like what do we need to accomplish? Like, what are your strengths? What are your strengths? Like, how can we all build this together and build the app, and then also like build a slides to showcase that to all of everyone in that group. So that was great, just because you really got that slow like introduction of like, what is Google? How am I going to fit in here? And then all while I'm still, like talking to my manager, talking to my team, getting that like ramp up of like, hey, like what do we do here? Like what is my role specifically? So in that, like that was great, just kind of like a overall mentorship. And then from then, I had more of a ramp. I had an internal mentor and then an external mentor. So my internal mentor is like just someone on my team already, who's been there longer than I have, just more experience, and just kind of like follow me through like what they do in their day to day, like what I would be doing. And then a couple months in, it was, I started leading the meetings, like I started leading my project. I started, really getting into it. Yeah, I would say like Google as a whole is definitely prioritizes your well-being and your ramp, and they want you to be successful. So they don't want to like throw you in there and say, approve this super important document on day 2, like, and you have no idea. So they really care about, ramp up first and learn your skills, like learn the company, and then you'll get to that like when you're ready.
Makes sense. Megan, now there's an important question, like we'll have to address that as well. That now, like it's hard for people coming from a non-CS background or non-tech, really like core technical computer-based background to come into an industry which is more like IT-based and it's more tech-based, software solution-based, like Google, right? Or Microsoft or any other FAANG company. So like you are also like coming from an industrial engineering and a systems engineering background. What were your challenges and like how did you address them basically to integrate your like skills into like such a tech company?
So I would say like big picture of, I guess like if this is your goal, if you're like big tech and you've like no big tech experience, like that's okay. Sometimes like getting those other experiences like in the meantime will get you there. So like I can even talk about my experiences, like I had General Motors. Like General Motors obviously helped me get Tesla. Tesla supply chain tech role helped me get Google. So I don't think I could have, just easily got Google without those steps in between. And so I guess it is a very like CS, there's a lot of software engineers, kind of, environment at Google and big tech in general. But also, like again, like I'm not CS and I kind of do a lot of the stuff that the ODS and the SWEs are doing. And sometimes it just takes a little extra effort on your end. Like if you're not learning that stuff in your classes, but this is what you want to do, go to the Google boot camps. Go, take those extra Python classes after work, after class, like put in the extra work to learn the skills that you think you would need to learn. So like I said earlier, sometimes it's not mastering one thing, it's just having knowledge in a lot of little things that would be helpful, even if your classes aren't going to teach you that. Well, like I don't think you can land a program management role without having some sort of technical experience in like the software and like coding and just database and just that space. Even if you do have like wonderful people skills and leadership skills and project management skills, I think it's that healthy balance of if you want to get in tech, you need to understand what's going on in that software side while also integrating like your abilities to run a project and manage people and other projects.
So what are some of the programming languages that you learned over the years and that you're also using at work?
Yeah, so I actually only use SQL for work. But I have learned R, Python, C++. I learned a little bit of SQL in school. I used it in my second internship a lot, and that really helped me in this now SQL. C++, R, VBA, Python. I think those are all. So
did you also like, like I heard from a lot of Google engineers, like when they prepare for interviews, they do Leet code. So what is this Leet code like? Have you done that too when you were preparing, or was it
I
like?
personally haven't. So
Okay.
I didn't have a like a coding interview. So like all
Right.
SWEs and like dedicated coders, like they'll have like a coding interview and they'll use like Leet code and like stuff like that. That's where you really need to know your code of how do you code something. So I personally didn't have that. Just because I'm not tested on my code. Like my code isn't getting published anywhere. Just
Right.
that's not my role. It's more of data processing and data analytics and that side. So that's why like I never learned JavaScript, HTML. Like I never learned the software coding. I always more focused on the project management, data analysis side of coding. So like Python, R, the back end of Excel, VBA, and that side. So that's where program management. I think if you work with SWEs, I have a lot of PM friends that they're over top of a SWE, I guess, project. So maybe in that sense, your JavaScript, your HTML, your other like more software-based codes would be super helpful. So it really depends. I definitely don't think learning extra languages will hurt you at all. It will only benefit you. But it depends what you like. So I personally really like that data analytics and data management. So that's what I prioritize my time into learning. But if you just really want to be a PM over SWE products, then prioritize your time more into that probably. Yeah.
Okay, makes sense. So that's great. So you don't have to have the like you're not a coder if you are getting into Google as a program management role, but it definitely helps diversify your portfolio and have that understanding. So that basically what I understand is like you should be able to communicate with the software engineers, or you should be able to communicate with the stakeholders working on that project. So if you have that background knowledge of how the code works, you are able to more easily communicate with them, and that makes the project more successful in that terms, right?
Correct.
Well, that's amazing. And okay, so now I want to like really get into some of the tips that you would like to recommend to our students to like prepare. Firstly comes the application process. So how do you like really highlight your application in such a way that like how was it for you? Like did you directly apply online and it went through it? How was it for you first?
Yes, I can talk about my personal experience where
Mhm.
I just applied online. LinkedIn is amazing for just, if you're graduating or trying to get an internship. I think
Mhm.
a lot of the applications that got me my internships and I found on LinkedIn. So honestly, just applying there. I know a lot of people will kind of like reach out to a recruiter. Honestly, that's kind of the same where it can only help you. Like reaching out to a recruiter, reaching out to someone that works there, it can't hinder your performance. It can only help you. So I definitely, applaud that. I personally, in this, scenario, I just applied, brought in my resume, and that got me the steps that I needed to get where I am. So that's kind of for application. You can even go to specific like company websites, and there'll be the applications there if you're really looking at specific companies. And so I guess for like the resume, your like CV, I think everyone first is like going away from cover letters. If a cover letter is optional, I don't think I've ever submitted one. I would not spend a lot of time on cover letters. Like some people just don't have a lot of time to read them nowadays, and AI is just taking your resume. That's just how it is today. Always tailor your resume to the role you're applying for by getting that job description. Like use the skills that you have. Like try to match it to the description if you have that skill. Like call out explicit words, explicit coding languages, explicit data management, resolving conflict, leadership. Like hit those buzzwords to really call out that this is your experience. Also, like a lot of times, like in my university experience, like if you want some help with like resumes and just like applications in general, share your resume like with friends or with your role model or someone in like the position maybe you want, or someone who's had a position that you want. Everyone's like super helpful to critique your resume. Just say like, hey, maybe you should call out this first. Nobody like this experience that you had like 8 years ago isn't super relevant anymore. Like use that space to highlight something else. Like definitely like use your colleagues and use your role models to like help you in that experience as well. Like don't be afraid to reach out to anyone. Like everyone is super open in the professional community. So that's kind of the biggest tips. And I guess like getting started is apply. Like even if you don't think you can get it, apply. Like you never know. It can never hurt you. It can only help you. Apply as many times as you want to as many roles as you want. Anything that you think you could fit. But also say, especially like for the upcoming like university students, like if like let's say big tech or Google is your dream company, as a freshman, as a sophomore, like if you only apply to big tech and you don't have other experiences, like like rejection is okay. Like that's where I did my like building blocks. I ended up at GM, and then I ended up at Tesla, and then I ended up here. Like if you don't get Tesla, then join your Formula SAE team. If you don't get that, then maybe look at one of the Tesla suppliers. If you can get in a supplier, and then you get into Tesla, and then you can get into, so really just like building blocks. And don't just keep applying to your dream company. Like apply to the companies that you think would help you get there. Is definitely like a big piece of advice.
All about connecting the small dots together.
Yeah.
And like creating your own story basically. So maybe if your target is too big or your goal is too big, so break it down to like smaller portions and taking smaller steps at a time, like getting that experience, getting that exposure, building your network. So amazing. So you learn about a lot of those things when you do all of these things, and not just like sitting and like, I don't want to apply anywhere else except Google. So that's not how it's going to work, right? So there is only so much jobs, and especially nowadays with all the recession and everything, with the layoffs going on, we have to always be open to opportunities and diversify our portfolio. Well, Meghan, thank you so much for sharing your advice and giving your crucial time to like help the community, help the students to get started and get their foot into the door at Google, and like giving some insights to us. It's really helpful for them, and I really appreciate you that you joined the meeting today and you did this podcast with me. And I will hope this will reach out to more and more people over the time. And thank you so much. And like it's a pleasure talking to you.
Yeah, no, thank you so much. I love what you're doing here, and kind of to any of your viewers, feel free to like share my name if anyone wants to reach out on LinkedIn or anything like that. I'm always open to people reaching out for whether it's professional advice or just some questions. In addition to this, like perfectly okay with that. Yeah, no, thank you so much for inviting me again.
Definitely, we'll put your LinkedIn link in the description below. And other than that, like thank you so much everybody for watching this podcast. If you have come so far, you have watched the whole video. it's going to be like around 30-40 minutes. I don't know. But yeah, thank you so much for watching. And I hope now you take some time to like, share, and subscribe to my channel so I can make more such content for you all and help you get your dream job and help you understand the industry trends and help you to also land into other big tech companies like Google. Keep watching and thank you so much. Have a nice day.